Hey guys, I'm Brian Stout. I'm a pastor, coach, and blogger where I focus on pursuing Christ as part of getting ready for and enjoying a healthy marriage. And as part of my work, I spend a lot of time with Christian single guys who want to move toward dating and ultimately a healthy marriage. But honestly, a lot of them aren't really sure how to do that, and uh, really may not even have a plan. And that was definitely true for me back in the day. And I find that there are at least three negative results that come from that lack of preparation. And they kind of happen throughout the journey toward a healthy marriage. The first thing is that a lot of Christian guys want to start dating, but they're really not sure how to go about that. They're struggling with feeling lonely, isolated, they're frustrated, and a lot of times struggling with sexual sin, kind of on their own, not making a lot of progress. The second thing is that guys who are dating, uh, the struggles don't necessarily end there. They end up getting hurt. They hurt the women they're dating. They may cycle through a bunch of relationships and just sort of repeat that. And obviously, it gets really awkward when those relationships happen within their church. But then finally, even after getting married, the struggles don't necessarily end. My wife and I were easily able to think of 25 couples who are Christians who got divorced. And obviously, the pain is so much greater after you're married. And so, obviously, I'm making this video. I don't want that for you. I want to help you get ready for healthy dating relationships and ultimately marriage. So, in this video, I want to talk about two things. The first is four key areas where I really see Christian guys struggling. And then at the end, I want to point you to a simple assessment tool that I created that will help you know which one of those four areas you need to focus on so you can grow. And then just to let you know, this video is part of a bigger series of 3 videos that again is designed to help you get ready for dating and ultimately marriage. So we'll have more to say about that later, but let's dive into today's content for now. All right, I want to warn you guys, this is going to get a little bit depressing before it gets better, but the bad news is going to show us our need, and our need is hopefully going to lead us to God and the hope that we can find in Him. Cool? All right. So, guys are struggling first in the relationship with God. And I mean, that's all of us to some extent, ever since the fall, ever since Adam and Eve rebelled and hid from God. But it affects men and women differently to some extent. So, if you look at some statistics, women are 100% more likely to be involved in discipleship than guys. They're 39% more likely to have a regular devotional time. They're 29% more likely to read their Bible. They're 29% more likely to share their faith, and 16% more likely to pray. But it's really not only about the externals, or even mainly that. Um, it's it's something deeper. Jesus says, Matthew 12:34, "For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks." And so he's saying if you've got a problem with your speech, there's a deeper problem in your heart. And if we have a problem in the way we're connecting with God or not connecting with God in our devotional life, it speaks to a deeper struggle. If we want our behavior to change, our hearts have to change first. One guy was really honest with me. He admitted to rarely taking time with God. He's like, I know it's not good. I want to change, but I'm really struggling. And I think if we're honest, that's really relatable. So a second area where guys are struggling is with our identity as a Christian man. And so if somebody asked you what it means to be a Christian man, and not just what it means to be a Christian in general, I'm wondering what would you say? And think about that for a second. So if that was a little bit hard for you, don't feel badly. I think a lot of us are confused. And to be honest, as I was getting ready for this video, I wasn't crystal clear on what I would say. And so, I'm a pastor, so don't feel badly. But we're not saying there's only one way to define it biblically. But there is a lot of cultural confusion going on with what it means to be a Christian man. And there's a lot of confusion in our culture with what it means to be a man in general. So let's take a look at 4 stereotypes or caricatures or or memes, if you will. Okay, so the first cultural stereotype is the hyper masculine guy. So, he's all about his appearance. He's kind of a ladies' man, a player. Uh, you always know what he's thinking, but you wish you didn't. And he's arrogant, he's selfish, and you'll probably find him at the gym. A second common stereotype or caricature of manhood today is the passive nice guy. He just kind of, he's going wherever life takes him. He's friendly, he's agreeable, he'll never get into an argument with you. Well, maybe in his heart, but he has low ambition, not many dreams. He's probably passive and insecure, and you'll find him in his parents' basement. All right, so cultural caricature number 3 is the strong silent type. And he's sort of a hybrid of the previous types. He's got the independence of the hyper-masculine guy, but the silence of the passive nice guy. He's not unlikable either, but you can't really get close to him, and he doesn't really want you to. And you'll probably find him alone somewhere off grid, and of course he'll take plenty of pictures, post them on Instagram, and hope you'll get jealous. And just to be honest with you guys, my natural tendency would be to be a combination of the passive nice guy and the strong silent type. It's something where I struggle with putting myself out there, and it's something I've got to keep working on. So I'm preaching to myself as I share this with you. All right, so number 4. Number 4 is the ascending professional. He's smart, he's driven, climbing the career ladder, getting promoted, through his hard work. He likes to travel and everything that money can buy. He's got his life together. There are no chinks in his armor, or at least it doesn't feel like it to you. He's sort of a self-made man, and you'll find him at the office. And when he slows down on occasion, probably on some kind of exotic vacation. So these are some ways I think our culture distorts masculinity and gives us false choices. All right, but let's talk a little bit more about the cultural confusion, because it's not a popular time to be a guy in our culture. Guys are rightly getting called out for stuff that used to get overlooked. Celebrities, sadly, even pastors, are rightly getting called out for taking advantage of women. You've got the Me Too movement, other things, and I just want to be clear. It's absolutely not okay to take advantage of women in any way, ever. These movements have been helpful correctives, but at the same time, it can almost feel like guys are on trial, like we have to walk on eggshells, simply because we're guys. One friend, he told me about a male doctor, friend of his. They were in the hospital. He and his team just saved a patient. Everybody was like excited, high-fiving each other. And this doctor just kind of turned to the female nurse next to him, kind of innocently gave her a hug, and everybody just, kind of moved on, went back to their thing. Well, he got called into the HR office, and he was put on probation for 6 months because that nurse felt uncomfortable. So obviously, we need to be careful, to be thoughtful in everything we do. But these are the kind of things that we're having to think about, and making it a little bit harder to be a guy. Okay. So another way that I think it's challenging to be a guy, if you just look at the TV commercials, it's if someone's going to look clueless or incompetent, it's going to be the guy. Oftentimes, a problem comes up, the guy can't solve it, and then a woman or even a child steps in to save the day and correct him and save him from his incompetence. There's this Gordon Ramsay commercial. You can see the screenshot there. But a man and a woman, presumably a couple, are at a warehouse where celebrity chef Gordon Ramsay just happens to be handing out quesadilla samples. The guy reaches for a sample with his bare hands. Ramsay, in typical fashion, slaps him in his usual mocking tone and says, "Use the cocktail stick." And so the woman chimes in, says the same thing. And it's kind of funny, it's humorous, but at the same time, uh, it's less funny when in commercial after commercial, the guy is always the one being made fun of. And again, it's kind of a corrective for older commercials, I think, where women, were the ones who were getting made fun of, which obviously also was not okay. But, what starts to happen is these doubts set in. If you see a depiction about people like you enough, you can start to believe that. There's this one guy, uh, I was talking with him, and almost every time we would connect, he kept talking about how talented his girlfriend was, and she was, and but also how he could never compare to her. And I was like, man, he's incredibly talented as a researcher. He was super smart. He was just quieter and not as big of a personality. And he saw himself as less than. So there's a lot in our culture today pushing against guys, and it's making it harder to be confident in who we are as men. And the church is really struggling to support guys. I mean, only about 10% of churches have a men's ministry. Older Christian guys really aren't pouring in to younger men. We're often busy, preoccupied. We might even feel like we don't have anything to offer younger guys. And then younger guys are usually unaware that they need help. Or if they are, they're afraid to ask for it because they think they'll be inconveniencing older guys. And so, even if a church has a men's ministry, it doesn't mean they're necessarily getting guys ready for healthy relationships. But in contrast, look at Jesus and his 12 disciples. He was pouring into guys, and then Paul had this awesome 4-generational vision for men pouring into men. What you have heard from me in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to faithful men who will be able to teach others also. And so, yeah, Christian guys are struggling in their relationship with God and in their identity with in their identity as godly men, but also number 3, in their relationship with the church and other guys. And the truth is, guys are really isolated. 95% of men said they don't have any male friends. And I know that may seem hard to believe, but even less than 1/3 of men in church say they have a friend. And so the typical church in America is actually about 60% female and only 40% guys. And this gender gap shows up in every category, all age categories. So, yeah, this website Happiful kind of is highlighting how the COVID pandemic hasn't been helping. There are these statistics from this relationship charity Relate and this dating site eHarmony. They partner together, and they're basically saying, single guys are finding loneliness more difficult than women in the pandemic. And they've got this relationships and lockdown report, and they're highlighting how 40% of guys are struggling on their own, whereas only 35% of women are. And it's sort of counterintuitive, right? Because on the whole, women are more relational than guys, and so you would think the isolation from the pandemic would hurt them more, but it turns out that guys are actually struggling worse. Okay, so a couple years ago, um, I wrote this article called "Guys Need Bros: 5 Ways to Find Male Friendships on Desiring God," and I'm kind of speaking from experience from here because at one point in my life, I really had no real guy friends in my life. I felt like, I don't have any room left for this. I'm starting a church, busy job, yada yada. Um, And it was really bad, and it was affecting me deeply in ways I didn't realize until later. So, yeah, this is a real thing. Guys are isolated and struggling in their male friendships. But then finally, a fourth struggle here is guys are struggling with their sexuality. So, this is something every guy I think is facing. Um, we know sexuality was created good, but at the same time, it doesn't always feel like it. There's certainly temptation everywhere. By the way, I'm not absolving us of responsibility. We are always responsible for how we respond to temptation. But the TV, the internet, billboards as you're driving, even just walking around, sexual temptation is out there. One guy who lived in the city was like, "Man, in the summertime, I just look down because I don't want to. I don't want to fail." Um, but all this temptation isn't accidental or a coincidence. People who create TV shows, ads, and so on know exactly what they're doing. They know that sex will catch our attention, and they're typically trying to exploit us for financial gain. And to a large extent, it's working, right? 20% of guys use porn at work. Nearly 70% of church-going guys and 50% of pastors view porn on a regular basis. Younger guys, 3/4 actively look for porn, and only 7% of churches have programs to help. So there's a huge gap between the struggle and the help. And I wonder if part of the problem is just that with pastors struggling so much, it feels like it's hard to authentically help guys if they're not engaging in it themselves. So, yeah. So I think, uh, before the internet, you had to go to a store and have courage, so to speak, to buy magazines, but now you can do it privately, obviously from your home. Um, and just struggles in this area, man, I've seen it lead to deep guilt and fears. It weighs guys down. It keeps them separated from God. And you wonder if you're ever going to overcome this, if it'll disqualify you from dating and marriage. Other guys just hope, hey, I'm going to get married. And somehow having sex will make this magically go away. But of course it won't. All right. So, man, this is really depressing, right? Basically, men in our culture, including the church, aren't doing well. And you're not even sure what it means to be a man. And look, if you've made it this far, I just want to give you permission, to binge watch something on Netflix, grab some ice cream, hug your stuffed animal, whatever you need to do. But uh, there is hope in Christ. And like I said, it's important to see the bad news first and our own issues. So we'll be super motivated to find our hope in Christ and the gospel. And it's kind of like going to the doctor, right? We need to agree we've got a problem before we'll accept the treatment plan. So, as Christians, we believe there's hope. God made us in His image. We're not just generic Christians; we're Christian men. God has a purpose, great things for us, and He wants to redeem it. I've seen Him do it again and again and again in my life, and guys I've mentored, and countless others. So Paul says, "I'm sure of this, that He who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ." And it all starts with seeing how we're doing and getting honest. All right, so I've created this Man Up Mini Quiz. It's designed to assess how you're doing in these 4 key areas that I mentioned above. It's a quick snapshot of your overall health and your readiness for dating a godly woman. So I just want to encourage you guys to click on the link, either in the email that came with this video, or I'll have it up on the screen at the end. Okay, so in our next video, we'll really zoom in on the area of our sexuality, an area that I find guys are really struggling and need the most help and encouragement. So we'll take a closer look at the struggle, and then I'll offer some help and encouragement at both the heart and practical levels. See you soon.